She's sitting in the cupola of a tank, showing off to the world, pointing in all sorts of directions and pretending that the tank is following her directions. While it trundles
like
along.
one of those little toy steering wheels. She thinks she's controlling it.
Exactly. So yes, that's quite an image. Hello and welcome to Quackcast number 372. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is the magnificent duo of Tant, Serene, and Beans. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
No pit face, because she's
She's in a tank right now.
Oh my god, is that this week? Unfortunately, she can't be in her tank with us. So, what are we going to talk about? We're talking about depictions of heroes in the Marvel movies, because the new film is out. What's the new movie, Baines?
I think it's called Fantastic Four or something. I saw it, but
Yes, it is
like
the Fantastic Avengers Infinity War of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's called Justice League Infinity War.
Oh,
and
really?
I saw it yesterday. No. It's called Avengers Infinity War. Everybody knows that. Yeah, I saw it yesterday. It was good.
I was fooled
and
for a second.
Had lots of heroes in it. Yeah. Ozone's very sick. We should let everybody in. So
yeah, but keep my personal life out of this. I can't help how
I'm sorry.
My predilections and peccadillos.
For anyone who hasn't picked up on it in the last few years, very sick man.
That'll catch me one of these days. No, I have a cold. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I can feel it in my voice, and I hate it. Oh my god, my tongue tastes like crap. But yeah,
I can hear it in your voice so much that I feel my antibodies just, getting.
I'll make everybody ill. I'll spread it. So there's this new film, Avengers Infinity War, did you say? And it's like the culmination of their depictions of heroes over the years. And also Tance's news post about grey in characters. Not necessarily bad guys or good guys, but just greyness.
Yes, betwixt and between.
Yes, and how even though grey characters are grey, they are ultimately not grey. But yeah, we'll talk about that. So before we get into those things, I'll introduce the featured comic. Now, Quackcast came up with a feature, and I remembered it this time. I don't have to actually look it up, which is interesting. It's called Potato and Kraut, I think. Potato.
Sounds pretty good.
And kraut.
Yeah, it is. Potato and kraut. Looks very promising.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a fan already.
Sexy. Okay. Potato. That's my sickness coming through. Take it away, Quai, with Potato and Kraut.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Potato and Kraut by Nick and Ben, and it is rated T for Teen. The backdrop of this comic is the Marne River in France, 1918. A group of World War I soldiers hear the sounds of bombs blasting outside and prepare to enter the front lines of a battle. In an interesting team, we have Finnegan, the red-haired and bearded gentleman, and the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Hertz. Immediately after arrival, an explosion goes off, leaving the two covered in shrapnel and Hertz badly wounded. There is a twist. The doctors are about to uncover a secret Hertz has been hiding all along. This collaboration comic is drawn by a two-person team, Nick and Ben. A lot of 100-year-old research on World War I has been studied for this comic. The art is drawn and colored digitally. Discover the recently revealed secret of Hertz, and read Potato and Crowd by Nick and Ben, rated T.
And that was our feature, Potato and Kraut. Thank you very much for that, Kawhi. You expertly reviewed it, as usual. So what has Gumballus given us this week? I wonder, can anyone guess? Alienated was the feature. Did you guess that?
Yep.
No.
So Alienated is a great little comic, and this music, this is as if Joni Mitchell wrote a classical adventure anthem. This tune urges you on to the vastness and glory of nature. You are Caspar David Friedrich, a wonder over a sea of fog, with the world in all its awesomeness spread out far below you. So, take it away, Gumwallace, with Alienated. Was Gumwallace with Alienated, and it's a comic by Road Runt, Red T. So you should check that out. Okay.
Road Runt.
Road Runt, interesting name. So the topic, the thing in hand, Marvel heroes and greyness in heroes, which we're going to talk about, the depiction of Marvel heroes. So you guys have both seen the occasional Marvel movie, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
Tance, you've seen. You're an incredible fan of every single Iron Man movie. Was that right?
Oh, she can't get enough of this stuff.
I watch every single one daily. I have replaced my sleep pattern with Iron Man things every night.
You are Iron Man. your morning alarm is Iron Maiden. No, not Iron Maiden. No.
Yes,
Black Sabbath.
I don't.
Oh, goodness me. So I'm in the same boat as you, I think. I haven't seen that many Marvel movies, although I've probably seen more. I got into them through the first Iron Man movie, I think, as most of us did, which was really the beginning of this particular thing, wasn't it?
I can't believe that was 10 years ago or 9 years ago. It's crazy, man. But I remember, that movie was so good. That really got me excited.
It really was. It was the beginning of the whole lot. I mean, it's not like the first superhero film or even the first Marvel superhero film, because we had Spider-Man films before that. But yeah, as you say, it was the first good one, and the first one where they really started, okay, we're seriously going to pack on the hero movies one after another, and we're going to reference them through each other, and it's going to be a universe that's coherent.
It's going to be like the comic books. It's going to be like a world that has all these characters in it, and they're going to meet each other, and we're going to see crossovers and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think they didn't necessarily follow the comics, but they made the comics follow the films.
I don't really read comics, like mainstream comics anymore, so I'm not sure. I've heard some people say that the comics copy the films now. I've heard other people say that they don't, and why don't they? So I'm not sure what the truth is there. But
right.
Tell us in the comments. audience.
What was that, sir?
I'm just asking those that are listening to us,
Oh yeah,
that
exactly. Yeah.
tell us in the comments what is true and what isn't.
The secrets. So, all right.
But that was really cool, and they had all this kind of history of comics. So these characters and their origin stories had been done decades before. They were kind of well-established characters, had gone through many permutations, obviously, because comics are coming out for decades on end with these characters.
Yeah.
But they stuck. I knew the Iron Man origin story, and they stuck very close to the actual origin story from the comics. I've found those are the movies that work the best.
Yeah.
The part ones, if you will, are the ones that go to the comics, and they kind of, even though these origins can be kind of cheesy, and like a lot of them were early 60s, so they can be, the world was very different, obviously, then.
Yeah.
But they stick to when they stick to the source material as much as they can, and then sort of around that, they sort of make things feel more, I guess, modern or whatever. They work the best. When they go too off track, they tend not to work.
And it really depends on the modernization. See, with Iron Man, of course, they updated it completely to the modern day. But with Captain America, we go back to Second World War, and it really had to be Second World War for it to make sense.
Right. Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
It was pretty great. And that movie did the same. It stuck, like, that is the origin of Captain America in the comics. And that's what they did in the movie. Yeah. Excellent.
I think the number one movie in a movie series where you have the origin is also perhaps, in a sense, on one side it's the more challenging because you need to engage the audience and keep the interest for the rest of the movies to come. But also, it's a little bit the easier one because when you have the origin, you take your everywoman, or you take your naive alien, or your naive semi-demi-goddess, or whatever, and then them towards their final iteration in the end where they are, and now they are the superhero. They have a very structured hero's journey, in a sense, that they have to go.
Yeah.
So it's very much connect the dots. Whereas beyond that, you have to basically make decisions that span beyond that, the development of the character after they are this hero, superhero, and where they're going to go there next.
Yeah, it's like, then what? After the arc is complete, it's kind of like, I mean, people have talked about some of these movies, and like there's even in the first movie having a third act problem, where you have this interesting arc, like this sort of, average person or sort of damaged person, or like you said, a naive god or whatever it is, and then like they go through this whole process of development, and then in the last act, they just, somebody else comes along who's as strong as them, and then they punch each other for 20 minutes, and that's it, kind of thing. And sometimes it's good, sometimes not as interesting, but that definitely, in sequel stories, it's like, okay, what do we do now?
It's interesting. Well, I mean, okay, so you're right, Terrence, definitely. You've got that hero's journey to start with. I think one of the biggest mistakes they can be is redoing a hero's journey for the sequel. So they think, okay, we've got our big hero, we've shown his development, we have to do a sequel. Okay, we take away his power, or we do something to put him back in the beginning, and then we'll go do the hero's journey again, which is stupid, because he's already reached that apex.
It's not only stupid, I think it's also like spitting in the face of the audience, because they have invested, they have put in the engagement and the hours, and they have invested that part of their time and their life watching this character reach that particular point. And now you're just throwing that away and telling them to sit through it again. So
Mhm.
it was all for naught.
Exactly. Those are always jarring. I think it's when it's done better is you provide a different challenge. And I'll go back, like, I think for me now Star Wars is like a real exemplar of how to do movies in a certain way. And I think it was done really well with like Empire Strikes Back. So instead of showing Luke going back and being a farm boy again or losing all his powers and then, you know, grubbing away to become really good. Instead, what they do is they take it in a totally different direction, and you know have a.
I think in Star Wars, and I was a bit scared at first when you talked about Star Wars, but you mean the original 3 movies?
Yeah.
Good for you. But yeah, I think that really they have legitimately approached the whole premise in a quote-unquote realistic way. Like, okay, you have this upstart kid that goes and takes a punch and lands the punch against the big bad, which is the Empire, and first movie, okay. But then, okay, that big bad is not going to just sit around and gawk. They are going to strike back. So that's the second movie. How does the big bad try to eradicate the problem that emerged in the first one? And that's your second movie, where you actually drive the point through that they are a big issue, a big deal, which is something, if you allow me to digress a little more, I'll talk about it later. And then you have the third movie where it's basically the Alliance, the rebels striking back as well. And a more spiritual, and for the character for Luke, it's also more ethical in a sense, like he has to make his choice, you know, good or bad. Like Hercules, he stands in the middle of a crossroads and he has to decide which lady to follow. So, they are taking logical progression as they lead into the story, and that's why the stories work.
So what you have to do is, instead of repeating the hero's journey, is you expand the hero's journey into something bigger. So the hero's journey is your meta arc across several movies rather than being just the small one. Oh, you thought we did a hero's journey here, but actually it's only the beginning of the hero's journey rather than rewinding it. I think
exactly
in the Marvel movies, they didn't in the beginning. I think they were doing the rewind stuff, but they had an eye to do sequels. But now they are more aware that they're doing a whole big thing. So they've been hinting at this big bad Thanos. They've been hinting at him for quite a few films and sort of slowly working up to that. So they have been doing it well in a way. So they've been beating these enemies, these baddies, but they've like been stepping stones more than anything, rather than being we destroyed everything, we saved the world absolutely forever and again, and then the next movie comes, we thought we completely saved it.
It's, like they haven't gotten to the final boss yet.
Precisely.
It's like the smaller boss.
The mid boss. So they are slowly. Like I say, people like to imagine, they've got it planned out forever, and they're really going for it, and everything's intricately worked out, which is bullshit. Because in the movie game, you can't do that, because you've got to rely on, if it's a hit, you'll get the funding and you can keep going, and then it's going to work. And they didn't know that with the Iron Man. They didn't know it'd be a huge success. Even the first couple of films, they didn't know. They didn't psychic. No one can know.
Which is why they were quite smart to not come out and announce this is a cinematic universe, which all the imitators did.
I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, what a oh, what a mess. And none of those imitators are doing very well. Looks like those universes are not happening. Marvel did it very quietly.
Actually, I would have liked to have like a monster universe.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
I mean, that would have been so
such an embarrassment.
Yeah.
The Tom Cruise thing with Frankenstein, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
and how can you botch a female mummy bitch? I mean,
Oh, that looked awesome.
she's
Yeah,
the
that should have been great. Yeah.
She's the best.
Mm-hmm.
There should have been no reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It should have been a home run, as they say. Slam dunk.
She looked really cool. I don't know. I wonder what the. I mean, the problem is it wasn't successful enough, but I wonder why. Like, what
I
was
think
the
they just
problem?
tried to swap, like to gender bend the roles of the previous mummy movie with
The Rock.
Right.
And Brendan
George
Fraser.
of the Jungle.
Brendan Fraser and all that.
And I think they tried to do that basically, like just rehash that plot, and didn't give a real life and real flesh and blood to the character of the mummy as a woman,
Right.
which is a shame, because you could have made her like one of those Elizabeth Bathory sort of character, someone that, for example, to save her, to have her own kid in the throne would kill all of the other kids that the pharaoh had, and then she got, discovered, and then that's why she got the curse.
Yeah,
and then her son might die, and she might get pissed and come back. Now there's all sorts of things that might drive this woman to be a mummy, be a monster, and then to actually raise kind in all sorts of ways.
Yep.
Well, also, I think probably what would have sunk it, I didn't see it, but from my guessing, I'd say maybe having Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise was the good guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's really good guy, which is a good segue.
But he has passed his prime as a good guy in films. He should have graduated to bad guy forever by now.
Actually, to be honest, and I don't like Tom Cruise, honestly, but I don't think that was his fault. This movie was not his fault, unless he wrote it. Then it is his fault. But I don't think it was the actors or actresses' problem that tanked the movie. I think it was absolutely the script and trying to think of it like a giant trailer for all the other movies that they haven't made.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of making an actual movie.
It's like, we own these monster properties, Universal Monsters, and then Marvel's doing this, so let's take our monsters and turn them into Marvel, and yeah, like you said, Tans, like we'll right away do a big press release with a picture of all these big stars who are going to be in it. It's like, oh man, how embarrassing.
Let's continue with the segue into what was it? Good characters or
like gray characters.
Gray. Give us a song, Baines. What's that song? The seal one.
The seal one.
Kissed by a rose on the grey.
I don't know that.
You don't know? Come on. It's the original Batman.
No.
Well, the sequel to Batman, I think. Or was it the original Batman theme? Batman 2. There is so much a man can tell you, so much he can say.
I don't know it. Sorry.
Oh my god. Oh, well, I'm not going to sing the whole song. I'm sure listeners know that one. Famous Phil song. Jeez. Okay. Yeah. So Gray. Tance, your news post was about how often bad guys or good guys will be, well, that's not the thing. Often a character will be portrayed as being very grey, completely grey, but at the root of it, they do come down on one side or the other.
Well, yeah, that's actually my opinion, and I did, like I mentioned that it is my opinion as much as possible because it's how, I guess it stems from how I approach personality in general in people. Like there are layers to it, and some are very very deep rooted and grounded, and they don't change after a point, after a particular age. And all the other things are layered on top like strata, if you like. So I do think that you can have extremely gray characters, but if you force them and put them through enough paces, they will eventually show their quote unquote true color and fall off the fence. And they will on the good bad side, and that will be fine. Even for a moment. And they might return to being gray, but you will know if you're looking for that, okay, this character is, of course, an anti-hero or an anti-villain, if you like, but I know that they are on this side of the fence, basically, when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, I read your news post there, and so are you talking about at the end of the movie, they make this...
So you do have this character who will be, like the range of the character will be such that there will be one occasion within proper context and with proper stakes, they will make a call, and this will be a direct piece of evidence that they are either inherently good or inherently evil. And it could be something innocuous, completely innocuous, that you might not even pay attention to. But it, like for example, they are staring at the road and they see something happening, and like for example, someone needing assistance or whatever, and they call or they don't call 911.
Yeah.
It's their choice. But they will know no stakes for them, but high stakes for the person or the people that need 911.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So that would be, for example, an indication. Could be an indication. Again, I say that you need proper context because, again, it depends on how you sell it and how you construct this entire thing.
So it has to be unambiguous?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not up to the audience to guess.
I wouldn't say no. I mean, because there are levels where, like, for example, for me, there are certain things that other people that I watch movies or read things with don't feel the same. That for me, if they do so and so, then they fall on this or the other side of the fence. And other people need to see something more than that to make that decision.
Well,
so it depends on the audience experience as well, and
the way they think. I was having a long chat about this with used books in the comments of your news post, and I mentioned I think it's Tony Montana is the character's name, Scarface, played by Al Pacino. And this particular character is portrayed as being quite a grey character. Well, he is pretty great because he's a villain. No, he's not really a villain. He's a protagonist, but he has what society would term as a villainous role. But because he's a protagonist, that means that's a mark in the good section according to the audience. And also, he's in the beginning of the film, he's an underdog again, marking the good column. He's fighting his way to the top, another mark in the good column. He's loyal. He kills bad guys who are more bad than him. In that, maybe these bad guys don't have the same moral framework. They move outside of it, so that makes them on balance worse than he is. He kills an ex-secret service agent from the Cuban government, I think, in the very beginning. But he does that for his own selfish reasons. But that's not really trumpeted that much. But all through that, so he sort of has. He is grey because, of course, as I said, he is, according to society, is in a villainous role, a drug dealer, a gangster. But towards the very end, he kills his sister and his best friend because he disapproves of their relationship. Now, for some people, they might see that as being neither here nor there. Maybe they think, it's the brother's right to control what a sister does, and it doesn't matter if the fella's his best friend because the brother should have obeyed them. But from my perspective, and I think for a lot of the audience, you see that as being an incredibly bad thing, and that tips the scales in the other direction. And for me, that points to him being unambiguously a bad guy. He is that wipes out everything before.
Actually, that's a really good example because for me, for example, you mentioned that as a that fall for the good category is that he's an underdog and that he's loyal. For me, for example, these are neutral elements. They can be potentially good or show integrity character, but doesn't make you good or evil because you have evil people that are underdogs. Often. Yeah. Okay. And you also have evil people that are actually a lot of evil people you will find are extremely loyal to their cause, and whoever impersonates that particular cause to the point that it is insane how loyal they are. So for me, loyalty is a good attribute for sure, but it's not a personality element that makes or breaks for good or evil morality, like whether they fall on the white or on the black.
Well, I suppose the other defining moment is that in the middle of the film, I think he's given a task of assassinating some sort of family who are visiting the UN. No, this man who is visiting the UN. But when he's driving in the car with these fellow assassins who are demanding that he do this, he sees his target is traveling with his son, and he refuses to kill him because he doesn't want to kill a child, and he thinks that's morally wrong. So then that, for a lot of the audience in the middle of the film, will tip the balance to good guy. Yeah. Refusing to kill a child.
And that's actually a big thing because the character actually has a line that they draw and they will not cross, theoretically at least, assuming that they're not hypocrites, because there is also that.
Yeah.
They might say something and not do something, but do it easily on another occasion with different interests and stakes.
Yeah.
So assuming that they are sincere, okay, and they wouldn't actually ever do that, then you do have a character that is closer to the white than to the black. If you feel that this one element that will not kill a child is enough to put them in that category, where, for example, they are killing a ton of children by selling drugs.
Yeah. But that's more abstract, I suppose.
Yeah, so it depends, really. And that actually could even be a very good character arc, because if they do have that and they are extremely sincere and stick to that particular line, if then you put them through this journey where they actually see what other kids are suffering because of what they're doing, and then they change their ways, you have a gradual heel face turn towards the white. So yeah, that could actually mean that they are very deeply, super deeply rooted. Good, deep down, extreme, like down the fine oil, but you find it there.
Yeah.
So it could be. Depends. It depends on how you align and where you draw the line yourself about what you consider make or break, good or evil. And that's the fascination with a great character, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely was. Well, it's a classic film. But speaking of, say, less classic films, more utilitarian but entertaining still, are the Marvel films. What do you think about the portrayal of their heroes as being good or bad? Because I think they do follow the current, for a lot of the characters, they do follow the current trend of making everyone grey a bit. Especially the Tony Stark. He's the poster child for that. He is more grey than any of the other good guys, I think. What do you reckon, Vance?
Yeah, I would say I was going to say the most interesting character. I'm not totally sure about that. I mean, he's definitely...
Well, he's the best
I guess
actor.
to me, he probably is. He's the best actor, the most interesting actor. That's exactly, it's hard to separate that a little bit. But he's definitely, what interests me about him is that constant conflict inside him. He does have, from the very first movie with that arc, he means well. He's trying to overcome what he's been in the past, which is an arms dealer, industrialist kind of thing, to be better, to undo that damage. And, but it's not like he becomes a great guy personally, necessarily.
Yeah.
He is, and then sometimes he isn't. He is, he's arrogant. He's like overly glib. He can be selfish, narcissistic. He even rattles off these qualities about himself in one of the movies. At least one of the movies.
Just so you
and
know,
that's
sure.
yeah. Yeah, he's like, we're sort of reciting a profile of himself that was done by S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, about him not being a good team player, like arrogant, narcissistic. And his girlfriend agrees with all of that. So yeah, that sounds about right. And so that's always interesting that he does mean well, and he struggles to do the right thing. He's definitely a hero. There's kind of no question about that. But those inner conflicts are kind of fascinating, constantly kind of fascinating.
I think
go ahead.
Please, no, complete it, please.
I was just going to quickly say, just to tag up on that, I also really like Captain America and the fact that he has a set of principles. He kind of sticks by them, and then the world around him kind of being more gray and more uncertain, and him trying to deal with that is very interesting as well.
Yeah, that's my favorite character because of that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
He's unambiguous, and
I can see that.
Have to be ambiguous to make it work.
And he can still be challenged by the world. It doesn't make things easy for him.
Precisely.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And the two of them together, especially with the tension that they're left with at the end of Civil War, I was like, oh, well, now what's going to happen when those two guys meet? That's a separate thing, but how these characters deal with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would say, at least in my mind, they are both good characters. I don't think that Iron Man is grey. I think that he is a troubled person, fighting his own demons and stuff like that. But he has basically made his choice. He doesn't have any temptation to turn on his friends and join Thanos, for example, or whoever is the bad guy of the day.
Right.
He doesn't really want world domination. He doesn't want to oppress nations and stomp on kittens and things like that. It's just like, okay, I'm really making it, very broad stroking. But what I mean to say,
you're right though. He's not Scarface. He's not that kind of.
Yeah,
it's not that kind of thing.
He has he could have been in the past, and we haven't actually seen it when he was a gun runner. okay, because gun runner. But we have not seen him post-season in the sense that he has drawn a line and he has said, okay, I'm through with that and I want to correct it, whatever that takes. So all his conflict is in his struggle to correct, the past that he has and struggle with his own personal issues and misgivings and extremely, extremely fascinating and interesting stuff. And I do think that he is a very good example of how to actually write a hero, like someone that a white character that has problems. He has problems, but he's a white character. In my opinion, in my eyes, in my category.
Nothing to do with ethnicity. This is white as opposed to like a chess piece kind of thing.
If you want a cream-colored person, mocha. A mocha person.
Yeah, exactly, mocha. That's kind of just to quickly tag, since we're going doing the Marvel thing. That is the Marvel thing in the comics. That's what they brought to the table in the 60s to the world of superhero comics. Was these angst-ridden characters, these characters with inner conflicts. It's there in Iron Man, it's there in Spider-Man, it's there in the Hulk, it's there in the X-Men. All these people have that inner kind of dichotomy and stuff that they're struggling with internally. Yeah, not just bad guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what makes them interesting, because it's very hard to punch the bad guy while you are also punching yourself. And if you manage to do it well while you're punching yourself, you are actually a never stronger character than your very, very generic knight in shining armor that is so shiny that everything is shiny, even his innards are shining because there is no trouble. So. And then you get to Mary Sue territory.
So, what do you think of an? I don't remember your article well enough offhand. I will look at it again. But the all white character who doesn't have as much, who does have those principles, like a Captain America or Superman used to be. How does that work?
Well, that's I didn't use the superheroes because. To be entirely honest, I haven't been very observant of their journeys, but from what I have seen fleetingly, in my opinion, they actually are, at least these modern iterations, they are very much how you write a white character, because Captain America doesn't have inner conflict with himself like a Iron Man does, but he has a huge issue with the world around him, and it's basically man versus society in a very big way. Whereas Iron Man is man versus self. It's another kind of conflict. Yeah. But they are both done right, and they are both very, very. They're white. They fall into the white category, and even and the shortcomings that they have are part of their development as personalities and characters and everything.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry if did I distract you from what you were trying to get at there?
Although, there are characters. I'm just going to say there are characters in the Marvel universe that are more grey. Loki, for example.
Loki, for sure. Yeah.
He can be good. He can be bad.
He's definitely functioned as more of a villain, mostly in comics, I believe, and definitely in the movies. He's often been the antagonist, but he does, in an interesting way, go back and forth in the comics, I think, and definitely in the movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen the latest movies with him in it, but apparently that's what's meant to happen. Ragnarok and things like that.
Yeah,
and
for sure. He goes back and forth in Ragnarok, and it kind of there's some of that in the new one too.
And that is more what a grey character does, really, because he does feel contempt for the little guy and will destroy them. But then again, he'll team up with the good guys, and what he does will end up helping them and get them out of trouble, I suppose. I can't say for sure because I haven't seen it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
It might play more into loyalty for his brother being willing to fight for that side. I don't know how Thames would fit him into these categories.
I don't know because I haven't.
Sure.
I am completely low-key blind. I haven't really seen him anywhere. I remember him in Thor. I did watch one Thor movie, and unfortunately I was so bored. I remember nothing.
Oh, they're bad. They're pretty bad. Ragnarok is a pretty fun comedy, but the other two are.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know. Probably, I mean, if he does, you could have from what I hear, I would say that either he comes from a point of he loves his brother, so he will, when push comes to shove, he will help his brother, but the world can go hang.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to decide whether that makes him fall on one side or the other side. And on the other hand, maybe it's to his interest to help his brother, because then his brother is going to help him do his stuff. So you can have like a more dark motivation than the other. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
It's contextual.
Right.
It's contextual.
Yeah, context matters. Context is like the alpha and omega of everything.
Precisely.
Right.
Yeah. It's like water. Water can be an acid or it can be a base, depending on what it's compared to. Or it can be neutral.
The Shape of Water. I don't know what that's about.
Oh my God! Yes, The Shape of Water.
I don't know anything about it, but I sense that title would mean something to someone.
The character in that, I haven't seen it either, but the monster looks like Abe Sapien from Hellboy, I think.
Oh, really?
From what I've seen.
Okay.
Which, yeah, that's a hero connection, not a Marvel. And who does Hellboy?
There you go. Hellboy is, I don't think he's either one. I think he's Dark Horse.
Oh, maybe? Right, the Dark Horse.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is. No, I think he's a different company altogether.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But
can I segue into webcomics?
Yes, please do. Please.
Ask, do you have grey characters in your cast, in your comics?
Not really. Pinky can do grey things, but she's a good guy, sort of. At least I think she is. Well, she hasn't done anything particularly good in the comic. So really, I think she probably is functionally a great character in that. She's only the protagonist. That's the only good thing she really does. But really, that's interesting. I would think of her as a good character, but
it's a good point.
The evidence doesn't really show either way.
What about Sissy?
Well, I would say that she's a baddie because that's how I think of her. But then the evidence really doesn't show. She does gleefully kill some people, but then there's on the other side from her, so she's not actually killing good guys, so to speak. She's not killing her own team. So really, that doesn't. There's on balance, if you're a lawyer determining these things, you couldn't determine. So there are no good guys or bad guys in the comics so far. All grey characters. So, well, I suppose they're all grey.
Baines?
I think I've had people comment on TK's, I use sort of, what do you call it, comedic sociopathy sometimes.
Yes, you do.
With my characters. I would definitely say, well, scratch definitely. I would, just thinking about it for a second here, I would say, yeah, Wade and Harley are not necessarily always going to be on the side of the other characters. They might not be a friend. I haven't done stories starring either of them yet. But they, yeah, I could put them in the gray category possibly. In this kind of lighter, kind of comedic world.
Yeah.
Maybe I could be wrong about that. Like, I don't know if you're worried that they're going to all like fully betray the other characters.
No, that's important.
But they might inch into that territory a little bit.
In a comedic world, you do definitely have the same kind of situation of good guys, bad guys, grey guys. You know, in any comedic world, even stronger than other dramatic depictions of worlds. I think you really
because you don't have to murder anyone to be considered. Yeah.
It's all the drama is based on situations, and people take sides. That's how it works out.
Okay, well, I would put Harley and Wade in that category then, and TK possibly. People could decide if he's more of a troubled hero, an anti-hero, or a gray.
I would put for now at least. I would put him for now more in the anti-hero category, TK. And he maybe because he's my favorite though. So I could.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Thanks.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So he's more of the George Costanza, you'd say.
Yeah.
What Brave Resistance, you'd automatically think, because they're all fighting for their cause, which is to fight for their own country. So you'd automatically think, okay, they're all white. But the more interesting ones, I suppose, would be the Nazis, because they're not necessarily. Although there are, on the good guy side, you have Orestes, and he's more selfish, or he's more strict.
Orestes is in Without Moonlight.
Yes, sorry, Without Moonlight. It's the same cinematic universe, so to speak. So...
Yeah, almost. Brave Resistance is very clear-cut for now. It becomes more nuanced after we establish all the characters after this arc. Like the second arc is considered is very different from this arc, which is actually the lightest of the three. But in Without Moonlight though, I think I would say, the Nazis, you do have shades of grey in the Nazis. You do have some.
Not just their uniforms.
What?
And not just on their uniforms.
Yeah, not the uniform. The uniforms are all black or dark, and they have all sorts of nasty things that they're wearing. But they do have, like, they are not of the same level of evil, if you would like to consider them evil. There is one that I personally, one of in the list. You haven't seen all of them yet, but of the main antagonists, let's say there is one of the two that I consider the devil personally. Not necessarily a German though. And there are also grey characters, like for example, Orestes I write as a very grey character, although I know where he falls off.
Yeah.
When he does fall off the fence. But he's very grey because he has already turned against his own team, so to speak, for his own interests. No matter how he rationalizes it in his head, he has done that. And I don't know, some people think that Diomedes is grey as well, because he has killed another kid.
Yeah.
So there's also that.
Definitely. I'll go on.
Yeah, and you have Arthur, that people actually consider a villain, and I don't consider him a villain personally. I feel that he is at worst grey. I don't think that he is a black character.
Yeah.
Black as in
moral.
In the category of
Yeah.
So there's that.
Oh, I was just thinking on those terms. I do have a character that does seemingly fall on one side or the other. Ace Kincaid, the 30s heroic sort of character, does a very... He betrays Pinky, which is a black thing to do. So, yeah, that's... Even though his appearance firmly puts him in the heroic good guy league, his actions change all that, and he has become the only chief antagonist in the Pinky TA world, but only in that specific chapter. In the current chapter, he's not as a clear cut. So he is a very grey character, and he's meant to be that way.
But he has made the choice, though. Already, hasn't he?
In one chapter, though. So the way the comic works, of course, is it's not linear. We go backwards and forwards in time. So the current chapter is an earlier period in time. So it's like the last one never happened because it happens later. So at the moment, he does not seem to have made any choice. So yeah, it's interesting in that way. It's as if you had I don't know, crap like the prequel Darth Vader, prequel Star Wars films, and you have the third film second or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Personally, I find all three categories of characters fascinating, because if you invest, like if you write them well, the things that they offer are. Each category has an extremely wide range of things that can happen, and
yes,
and to be honest, I shied away from writing grey characters for a long time as a writer in general. But
oh really?
Yeah, because I wasn't certain if I would still like them afterwards. Because I need to like all of my characters, both the villains and the heroes and the grey ones. So I generally don't like lukewarm things in general.
They have to be hot or cold.
Yes, I don't like lukewarm.
How about? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, please. No.
I was just going to say, how about if, say, like in my example, that you think of this character as being, okay, this character is a good guy, and this character is a bad guy. But as far as the audience knows, they can't see that. They're just a grey character because you haven't come down on one side or the other in your story yet. But you know.
That's what I mentioned. Like, I was I was surprised, to be honest, when like 80% of the audience I have worked without Moonlight, across all mirrors and all, people that communicate to me about it. And they think Arthur is a villain.
Ah, all right.
He's
yeah.
a villain. And I was so, I wouldn't say shocked, okay, but in a sense I was taken aback. That's the state of the mind. Like how would you consider this guy a villain? And they do. And I think that the biggest issue that they take with him, and I totally understand, is that spoiler alert, that he has actually been the one that killed the hand that killed Basil.
Yeah.
He's the one that did.
Which makes him a villain no matter what he does to some people.
Yeah. It's like, how dare you do it? Because he, if you consider it from his point of view, to him, Basil is nothing but a guerrilla that has butchered his childhood friend, the one friend that he has shared, a ton of things with, and they have stuck it through together. And his friend has been awesome to him, no matter the fact that he was a trigger-happy, sadistic bastard to everybody else. But that's something that Arthur has remained completely blind to, because it's his friend and everything. So his friend is dead, and he feels culpable, and he wants revenge, and he also feels that he dropped the ball for his team, and he hasn't yet allowed himself to see where his team stands on the whole spectrum of right and wrong at all.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a kid that has grown up in Hitler Youth. He's a kid that has seen his family suffer before Hitler and blah, 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 all that sort of thing. And you have this guy that basically is pretty much very upstanding because he won't kill any kid. He allowed Basil to escape with photos when he could have totally stopped them both and killed them both on sight. And nobody takes that into consideration because he killed Basil.
Right.
So that also wasn't very good. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think him as grey, but everyone else thinks him as black, and so I don't know. Maybe that makes him grey. I don't know.
Yeah. I suppose as a writer, if you really want to have the audience take people a certain way, you've got to lead them to that visibly. It comes down to that. Even though you as an author think of them differently, which is fair enough, you have to be able to have your own point of view on those things.
Actually, I think that the one that I really do consider as the blackest in my cast, like the blackest of them all, will not appear as such for a while yet. Like they are extremely skilled in not showing their colors very well to people that are around them. So I don't think that they will show themselves very easily. And
I love that kind of thing, by the way, in books. And
thank you. I hope I do that. I hope it comes across that way because I do have a couple of people that know who it is already.
Sorry, if I may interject, that reminds me very much of the Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you have the character Gul Dukat, the Cardassian, the former ruler over Bajor, the planet where the Deep Space Nine space station orbits. But he is, throughout the series, is being portrayed as a very grey character. Is he really bad or is he really good? We don't know. But then, towards the end of the series, I think, well, maybe towards like the third of it or something like that, he comes out very visibly as basically a Nazi, basically as Goering kind of character. Yes, I hate the Bajors, the Bajorans. Yeah. They're disgusting. They're they're not subhuman, but there's some people that they're below. We should have
everything about them.
Yeah, I hate them. And whereas he was portrayed as being great all through because he has a Bajoran daughter and he loves her, and he wants to help her.
Right.
And he wants to help Major Kira and everyone like that, wants to help them connect with their people, and maybe he could be romantically interested in her, and he wants to help the Federation and all these things. So, yeah, that was a very interesting thing. Yeah, sorry for that interjection, but yeah, it reminded me of.
That's wonderful. Actually, that I remember there is this scene. I don't know if you have watched La Vita e Bella, relatively old movie. And there is this, like before the entire occupation by the Nazis happens and the Senate happens in Italy, you have this couple, the woman who is a Christian and the man who is a Jew. They fall in love. They have, very nice, semi-comedic, very touching, very romantic thing going on. And the woman is a teacher, and there's an extremely creepy scene very creepy, but it really drives the point through on the evil of the matter and how people's minds are warped already. Where, she's sitting around with her fellow teachers and they are discussing the terrible textbooks that their students are getting. And she also, is on board, or for it she's incensed. She says, yes, they are unacceptable. How could they give these problems, word problems of maths to kids and everything? But she was talking about the fact that the word problem had the context of how many Jewish kids must be killed in order for the village to have the resources, something like that. And they, it was a basic math problem. But the teachers weren't talking about that as being, unacceptable. But that the problem was too hard. The math problem was too hard for the. And then when she realizes that, because at first she was like, oh yeah, my colleagues, they are on board with me. We feel, the same thing. And then she realizes the difference on the indignation that they were all of them expressing, and she just is winded. She is floored. She's just staring at them like she sees aliens around her. And I think that is a very subtle scene. There is no, drama. There is no let's kill them all. Let's do whatever. It's just that how deeply and how perverse the entire logic of mainstream culture was at the time, and that alone is extremely ominous on how things develop later in the movie. But I do think that a small scene like this depicting something extremely small, like this very small event, will put characters on a spectrum very easily, although you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing I was thinking about.
That very much ties into your whole news post about the defining thing, even though they are grey.
Yeah,
they aren't really.
When I was writing the article, though, I would have put the example in, but I didn't remember it.
Well, there we are. That's what the Quackcasts are for. Perhaps we should wrap it up now with those. And I am feeling terrible.
Crowning moment of awesome.
Crowning moment of awesome. This has been an interesting Quackcast about the Marvel heroes, the Marvel movies, and greyness in characters. We discussed those two topics. I like these two topic casts. That way we don't run one idea into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
We run two ideas into the ground.
And next three, and next the world.
Next the world. Next the world.
The world.
Oh, goodness me. And now we're seeing the true colours of the Quackcast cast.
Yeah, we have fallen off the fence finally.
Yeah.
The world.
Evil goals revealed. Evil nature.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanos, you can step aside. This is a new bad guy in town. All right. Thanks, people, for listening to the Quackcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.